Guess it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Hello, welcome to a late night dilly dilly. A little bit earlier than usual. We're trying some new times out. Thank you for joining us tonight on this edition of the Buddy Martin Show. We have lots to talk about. We have lots of guests, lots of information to pass along. And as you cue it up here, I see you're joining right away, which is good because we got lots of things to talk about. We got special guests coming up in just a few minutes. We'll talk with David Moulton of CBS and ESPNU about college football and a few thoughts about other things, including Scott Frost. Scott Frost now saying he wasn't in favor of the national championship that they gave themselves at UCF. Interesting why you say that. Also, David will talk about recruiting. There's two kinds of recruiting these days. There's the kind that you do in the regular recruiting season, and now there's this other recruiting that we've come used to, which is graduate transfers and transfer. And in the news tonight, I'm not sure how much of it is hard and factual, but among others, Quentin Cruz has called to my attention. I began working on the story earlier this afternoon to see what I could find out about Ohio State's vaunted quarterback potential transfer, not just to Florida, but perhaps other places like Nebraska. But there's definitely something going on, although I'm not sure what yet, with Joe Burrow, who would have 2 years left after transferring. He, of course, is the other quarterback. He and Haskins are sort of 1A and 1B up in Columbus. I talked to some contacts today in Columbus. We'll share with you what we know about that. Also, I've talked with 4 local people who I know, who know the football program really well at Florida. I tried to get their information. And I'd like to say I have complete revelation here and all kind of news, but we don't know, but we'll talk it through. I mean, some of you are actually saying, well, who's Joe Burrow? Why all of a sudden is he like, Tim Tebow? A little bit about his background. I don't know a lot about him. I've looked him up. I've talked to people. Among those who would know a little bit probably is David Moulton, who will join in just a couple of minutes. We'll ask him about it as well. And then we are going to talk a little bit of golf. This is for you, Len Tyndall, because this is the Players' Championship week. It's the biggest event we have in the Southeast behind the Masters. This is in the state of Florida. It's a big deal. So we will talk to Tim Rosaforte, NBC Golf Channel, a little bit about that later on. Then we'll finish up with Franz Beard, and we'll talk to him about his thoughts and what he may have heard as well. So a busy show. I'm going to get right to it. As you see, this is brought to you by CD Farms Florida, our good friends Chris and Tracy Workman DeCubelis, who are regulars here. They're members of our elite. We'll have more conversation about the elite tonight. As you see, there's their contact information for CD Farms. They, of course, have a number of opportunities for you for meat, poultry, what have you, where you can have your own grown there and prepared there. And, of course, they have wonderful vegetables on a new program called something that they're very proud of, CD Farms Florida, the CSA. Spring harvest is rolling in right now, and they unveiled their vegetable plan a couple of weeks ago. And the CSC works like this: a complete big box of freshly grown vegetables, enough for a family of 4. Will vary week to week, and every week you get these, and they will get them to use some. I'm not sure what you have to pick them up or whatever. We'll find out. Tracy and Chris can let us know. And just think about having the freshest produce. This is before he even gets to the grocery store, if he's going to the grocery store. It's farm to table kind of stuff. It's terrific for the low price of $40. Contact information is on the screen. You can call him at this number, 352-443-5533. Email him at cdfarmsflorida@gmail.com, and you can go on to CD Farms Florida on Facebook and get information there. Okay, we're going to start this thing out with David Moulton, get his take on it. I know a lot of you are waiting to hear. I'm waiting to hear from you about what you've heard regarding Joe Burrow in terms of what you know, because I don't want to get any false hopes up here, but it's something we have to talk about. Like I said, we have 2 recruiting seasons now, not just one, the regular National Signing Day and the second wave, and now we have this other wave, I guess you call it, of people looking around, shopping around to try to find some graduate transfers or some transfers, because today, let's face it, the players, if they don't play, they don't stay. Here's a guy who follows the game very closely. He, of course, works for CBS on college football Saturdays. He also has his own shows, including ESPNU, where you can find him regularly there, and basketball and college football. He, of course, has his own program in Southwest Florida, a Miller Moulton Show on Fox down there, and he writes a column for the Fort Myers News Press. He doesn't do much else, so if you'd like for him to come do your yard for you and take in your laundry, he can do that as well. David Moulton. How are you, David?
Well, buddy, I'm good. It's been a busy few days for me. I just got back from my daughter's wedding.
Nice. Congratulations. What was the highlight?
Thank you. What was the highlight?
Other than writing a check.
Believe it or not, I married a minister's daughter, and
nice.
He passed away a few years ago. But he used to end every wedding with a certain prayer, and it's quite special. And somehow, some way, the people involved in the wedding became aware of it, and they incorporated that little prayer, which was at the end of my wedding and at the end of his wedding and all that, and they worked that into the end of their little ceremony. So
cool.
It was touching, especially since it was unexpected.
That's wonderful. And I have a book. My grandfather and great grandfather were both preachers, and there's actually a wedding and funeral book over 100 years old, founded about 20 years ago, and I've used that. I actually married my son and his wife and my daughter's wife. I officiated it, and I've loaned that book out to others to marry people. So that tradition, that's a good thing, man. Congratulations. That must have been a special time for you.
Yeah, only child, so needless to say.
Oh, yeah.
She graduated college, turned 21, and got married all in 10 days. So, buddy, I'm kind of...
She's just like a Moulton, do it all at one time, right?
Right. I just posted on Twitter, I feel like that longtime coach or general manager who after 21 years finally won a championship and has now been reassigned to the role of consultant. It's like, I feel really great about what's been accomplished, but now what do I do?
Your work is done here, right? Well, that's great. Well, thanks for joining us, David, tonight. I know you tell folks again about your ESPNU show. I know it's on. I seem to get it a lot early afternoon, the times and what have you, where they can get you. And, of course, online with your Fox show as well, because these people all love college sports, and you do a lot of that.
Well, if they love college sports, then they should listen to, they should get Sirius XM and listen to Channel 84, ESPNU Radio, because that's all they do. My only regular show is Sunday nights at 7 o'clock, but I fill in a lot.
Yeah.
So put it that way.
Yeah, well, that's nice. Well, I tell you one thing, you got me listening to it. I actually start out now. I mean, my XM Sirius radio stays on that channel when I get in the car, because I even got where I enjoy Mark Packer and Neuheisel and of course Spurrier is on there too. And of course I find I don't care that much about the NFL anymore. So for me, it's really it's a bonus. So it's really good to have it. Let me ask you a couple of questions, because I'm going to talk golf here in a minute with my friend Tim Rosaforte, of the Golf Channel, about the players coming up, something you know a little bit about as well. Let's talk for a second. You probably haven't had time to catch up on this story. Joe Burrow, the quarterback from Ohio State, who's Now, there's more than a rumor now that he's looking to transfer Nebraska and Florida on his short list. There's a lot of things going on right now on Twitter, all over the internet. I've had people contacting me all day. One of my regular listeners here says he's talked to 4 sources. They said something's going on there. Trevon Grimes, of course, is the former Ohio State player, now transferred to Florida. Apparently is a source of some of that. I call my contacts in Columbus, the 2 that I know, not Urban, and I got nothing. Have you heard anything? Do you know anything? And what do you think is going on there with Joe Burrow?
Well, I obviously have no inside information because, I've been a little busy these last couple of days. But in all seriousness, buddy, this isn't that complicated to figure out. This is pretty much the same way, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, and even some of the other sports. I mean, if you haven't played much, you need to get on the field. And this kid is still considered by some to be a kid who's got Sunday-type talent. But obviously, Ohio State's had quarterbacks lined up here for about 4 years. So he needs to get on the field. And he's in a coin toss battle in Columbus. And he's talked to Urban. And clearly, Urban has not said, you're the guy. Mm-hmm. So he's like, all right, do I take the chance? Or do I go somewhere and, buddy, you know how this works. They say to you, well, I don't know if I can completely promise you the job, but put it this way, it's your job to lose, which is a better scenario than the one he currently has. And I would think that both Florida and Nebraska would at least be prepared to say to him, it's your job to lose. Otherwise, they don't get on the phone with him. They're not going to eat up a scholarship and waste their time and muddy up their quarterback room if they don't think he walks in the door as the best equipped quarterback to play September 1st.
Yeah, and it's a cat and mouse game. We saw what happened in Alabama, obviously, with Hurts' dad speaking out. In this case, his dad has spoken out as well. He made some kind of cryptic message comment about what's next. And I think this kid graduates soon, doesn't he, in Columbus?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so he's going to have a graduate transfer with 2 seasons to play? Wow.
Yes, exactly. And, you've got 2 programs here who both need a quarterback for the present and no guarantee that what they've just brought in the door is necessarily going to be ready to play in 2019. And, what would be the worst case scenario? They redshirt 2018, spend their redshirt freshman year as the backup to this guy, and then it's their job in 2020 for at least 2 years. That's a much better quarterback situation. And the one thing I do think it spells, though, and buddy, this is not me confirming a bias of mine, I think this is a clear statement by Dan Mullen and his staff that Felipe Franks is not the answer. We are prepared to go in any direction except that one. I mean, there's no reason they even get involved with a quarterback graduate transfer if they think at all that Felipe Franks is the answer. I mean, I do think that's a conclusion that we can come to.
My contacts up in Columbus, one of them who works for a publication, said he said the word they had gotten is that Emory Jones wasn't ready to play, and Florida wasn't happy with what happened with him. Mullen has a great reputation as a quarterback guru, so there's a lot of things that make sense, he says. I did hear Joe Burrow's name come up on this past Sunday. This guy named Green, who's putting this word out too, one of the ones that people are quoting from 247 Sports, says there's a lot of speculation about Burrow possibly heading to Nebraska, join Scott Frost. Burrow's father, Jimmy Burrow, posted a photo from his son's graduation over the weekend with the caption, "On to the next challenge." Naturally, it caused a lot of stir and speculation among Ohio State fans. So that's where it's coming from. That's one of the things that's going on right now. So yeah, I mean, it's strange that there is this cat and mouse game, as we saw in Tuscaloosa. And there's going to be, here's the other thing. How many quarterbacks can you have on the roster? I just talked with one of my colleagues today who told me that Felipe Franks, he predicted to be the all-SEC quarterback. That would be Mike Bianchi in Orlando. So this morning on our morning show, he'll be the all-SEC quarterback. Okay? So anyway.
Well, I love Mike Bianchi, and he's clearly one of the 3 best columnists in the state and has been for 20 years. But he needs to be drug tested. Okay, especially this year in the SEC when there's actually quarterbacks in the conference this year. Some years there haven't been recently. This year there's actually quarterbacks in the conference.
Has anybody seen Burrow on film? I have not. I didn't see him in the spring game. I know he looks good in the uniform. It looks really good.
Right, exactly.
He has big numbers in high school, but I don't know.
Yeah.
He's played in, 10 games or something so far in 2016?
Well, exactly.
And thrown about,
30 passes.
Yeah, about 30 passes, right. So, anyway, it could be much ado about nothing, or it could be something, right? All right.
But buddy, hold on.
Yes.
Think about it, though. Think about it. Okay? Dan Mullen, clearly there's some there. And the Gators are at least heavily pursuing this kid who's thrown 30 passes, as opposed to the kid that they just got to look at for 4 months, who threw, 200 passes?
Yeah.
It at least tells you that they aren't real crazy about what it is they're going to be opening up this season with the way it stands now.
All right. Well, we'll see. Well, I think you can get to a point of diminishing returns. As somebody pointed out today, there was one from quarterback from Notre Dame who transferred. Everybody got excited last year, and he didn't quite live up to it. So you never know.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Now, I will say, that kid, and this is something that we need to look into, buddy, is, I never thought he was a good transfer because I didn't think his skill set fit McElwain's system.
Yeah.
All right, so this is another one in which, is this guy just a thrower, or can he at least run the ball a little bit? Because Dan requires his quarterbacks to at least have a bit of a power running short yardage mechanism.
You're absolutely correct. Okay, I got about 3 minutes here, and I want to get this in if I can. One of them, I want you to give me an assessment. I asked Bianchi this morning of how crowded this state is getting now with all the coaches. We've talked about this a lot on this show. We know about, obviously, Taggart and Tallahassee. A lot of people think he's had a great recruiting season. We know Mullen's made a lot of progress, certainly. We know Charlie Strong's doing well, and the new coach, Heifel, is walking into a pretty good situation there, left behind by a guy who, by the way, made some people unhappy today, Scott Frost, who came out this weekend and said, well, he really wasn't in favor of the Medical National Championship. That's kind of a backhanded slap. And then, of course, you got guys like Butch Davis still down at FIU, and you've got Kiffin at FAU. So you got a lot of good coaches in the state, and there's a lot of players. 15 million people in Florida, and a lot of good players. But the question is, it's getting awfully crowded out there for the good players. How much is this going to factor in, and who's going to be the loser in this?
Well, all right, let's look at the coaches that we think are only short-term. I don't think anybody thinks Lane is long-term. The word on the street is that Charlie Strong wants to get a Power 5 job as soon as possible.
Wait, Lane just signed a 10-year contract, didn't he?
Well, yeah, come on.
Well, he did.
Okay, he's there for 10 years and he can't find anything else. But come on.
I know, but I'm just saying he did.
Do you think, put it this way, in 2020, do you think Lane Kiffin will be at FAU?
No.
I don't either.
No.
And I don't think Charlie Strong will be at USF in 2020.
I'm not sure about that.
And that's the word
I'm not so sure that's a bad place to wind up. You know what I'm saying? I think the school's got long-term potential. Anyway, okay, I get your point. Go ahead.
No, but I'm just saying that's the word on the street.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's negative recruiting or what.
Right.
The word on the street is that Charlie's trying to get back in the Power 5 game.
Right.
And so, whereas I think Taggart is long-term, I think Mullen is long-term, I think Rick is long-term, I think Butch Davis at FIU is long-term. And we'll see about Josh over at UCF. Right. So, I would bet on the guys at the programs that we're pretty sure that unless they fail, they're probably going to be there in 2025 and beyond.
Right. Okay, I got 30 seconds. I want to get this in. Give me your picks for the Players' Championship.
Oh, boy. Matt Kuchar.
Matt Kuchar. He hasn't been playing very well lately. He's been consistent, though. I'll say that. All right. Matt Kuchar. All right. I'm not going to knock your choices.
Just throwing it out there.
That's all right. That's all right. Matt Kuchar. All right. It looks like Philly Mick is playing pretty good right now. He's hitting a little long in the tooth, but boy, I guess the favorites are McElroy, Jason Day, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, and Dustin Johnson. Those are the ones that are getting the play in terms of Vegas and stuff. So
that would have been too easy, though. Come on.
No, I like your pick. I like your pick. Nothing wrong with it. All right. David, as always, congratulations on the wedding and your daughter and everything else. And keep up the good work, my friend, okay?
Buddy, be good. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it very much. David Moulton from down in Southwest Florida. I want to get this in before we talk to Tim. Tell you about Center State Bank you see on the screen here. They're my bank, one that you want to check out. They have a lot of locations in Florida. In fact, 82 locations in 30 Florida counties. And they're the seventh largest bank in Florida. Formerly the Gateway Bank in Ocala, now, of course, is now Center State Bank. Their slogan is centered on community and customer service. Not just words, but words to do business by and live by. They make it no secret of their core values, which are world-class service, long-term vision and horizon, locally driven in the marketplace, relationship banking, and faith and family. So if you don't know about them, check them out. Go online and go to CenterStateBank.com and check out a location near you. Here in Ocala, my bank is over at Silver Springs Boulevard. You can call them at 352-368-6800. Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service. All right, we're going to see if we can get a hold of our friend now and hook up with Tim. Tim Rosaforte is one of my favorite people, not just a favorite golf guy, but a favorite guy because he's knowledgeable. He covered a lot of sports in his day that wasn't golf, but he got so good with the golf that he went full time with NBC. And now he's been doing this a while. He knows the game. He does good stories. He reports the golf, and he is. I like the fact that he makes it a point to flesh the story out and tell the complete story and give me the backstory and talk to the caddies. And when you talk about getting into a tournament like the Players Championship, certainly that's one that you want to be able to do. Tim, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I was just bragging on you when you answered the phone. We're here. We go right live as soon as you pick up on Skype. But thank you for taking a minute to talk. It's a big event this week, as I said earlier. This is not just the biggest tournament in Florida. It's one of the biggest in the country and the world. And we all know the story of the field, and what this tournament's become over the vision of Dean Beeman and Jack Nicklaus and others who made this what it was, the players. And you've covered a whole bunch of them. And without getting into a long dissertation about the players, does it feel the same to you in May? Because it still doesn't feel the same to me.
Well, you won't have to worry about it, buddy, because next year we'll be going back to March.
Well, that's right. We are.
It won't matter anymore, right?
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about that. Yes, I do remember that story now. You like that?
Well, I'm sort of indifferent to it. I like it either way. I think the tournament stands alone, with its own identity, whether it's I'm a sort of a traditionalist. I think majors should come in fours. It's a grand slam, not a grand sextuple or whatever, the five is. And so, I'm going to kind of dig in on that. But same time, awesome tournament. Love covering it. Only missed one since they went to Sawgrass, and go back to the days when it was played across the street at on the ocean there, right there inside the
late Ed C. built that golf course. Ed C. was one of my college buddies, and we lived in the attic of the Fidel house, and he built that course over there, original Sawgrass, and that
Sawgrass. Sawgrass.
A famous tournament where the wind blew like 150 miles an hour, and everybody shot in the 80s and all that stuff. I wasn't there for that one. I was there the next year, though. It's quite a story. So.
They had some really good finishes there. I remember following Nicklaus around with Trevino one year, and when it was at Sawgrass, and then they had a barber's chair in the locker room, so you'd come in after the round and you'd have to sit in a chair and then tell tales of how bad it was across the street. That. But obviously, a bigger specter at the stadium, as much a star as any player,
right?
And there's been some. We just saw I got it on my TV here while I was waiting for you to call. They showed those 3 twos that Ricky threw up in 2015, I believe it was, and how, that'll probably never happen again, whether it's March or or may, but it was just part of that lore, that hole, and the hole is gives it as much identity as anything, to tell you the truth, as far as the tournament.
17th is it is what Amen Corner is to Augusta. 17 is, I think, the Players' Championship. It is a signature hole, obviously, and it makes it what it is. Sometimes lost is the fact that the finishing stretch of those holes, those last 4 holes, really can be brutal, especially when the wind's blowing. But, Tim, I never asked you this question, but since we have people on listening who like to follow all sports, particularly college sports, I know you covered all kinds of sports. You covered you covered the Dolphins, you covered college football, you covered everything back in the day before you specialized in golf. What made you decide to go write golf full time when you covered every sport there was and did it well? What did you pick golf full time?
Well, the great Tom McEwen, what a character he was, and how much of an influence he had in Tampa. And I got a job in Tampa, and he called me in and said, "Rosaforte, hi." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You play golf?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, you should not only play, you should cover it." And, the deadlines are a lot better. The locations, you think about where your office is around the world, some of these places. And, I don't know, and as McEwen said, it's the one sport you can play when you get older like me. And now I am as old as McEwen was when he told me to put this great idea in my head. And, it's not pretty at times, but at least it gives me some sport I can play. And, it's obviously the spirit of the game that's captivated me, and I've done it a long time, and hopefully got a long time to do it in the future.
The writers, back in the day, that whole cadre of writers that used to come from Carolinas, they covered, their big thing was golf, NASCAR racing, and college basketball. They all loved that. And they used to say they loved NASCAR and golf, and he said, because they bring the winners to the press box. Was among the things that they like. But, I have, as you know, I've had a passion affair with golf a long time. Not so much anymore, but I think Nicklaus had a lot to do with it for me. I just really liked him. He was my all-time favorite back in the day, and really my favorite among athletes. He and Arnie were such, I'm dating myself, but they're such precious gems, and you learn so much for people who take the time to talk to you. Those guys would sit and talk to you for 45 minutes sometimes. Palmer would come in for a round, he'd go out to his locker, and he'd sit there with the writers and buying beers for 20 minutes, It's just it's a personal contact.
Same thing with Jack. If you go to Memorial in a couple of weeks, it's good. It's the same scene in the pavilion there. It is a great facility and golf course and all the infrastructure. And, he'll sit around and talk for a half hour after his news conference is over, which he's gone for an hour. Now, the kids are really good, and they do a lot in social media, and they tell you kind of how they're thinking. The only but is that a lot of them, as soon as the news conference is over, they're out. They got a bubble, they got things to do. No disrespect, I think it's just the demands are greater now than when Nicklaus and Palmer went through. Now there's more social media, more stopover points. It's not like you're digging a ditch when you got to stop and answer some questions, but it's just part of what takes away some focus and some reason to kind of think about relax or think about their golf game. So,
well, I agree with you on that.
But they're not, Jack and Arnie were unique, and it was just like, again, though, they didn't have Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and people websites. It was newspapers. It was a different deal. I'm like an old timer now.
I understand. Sorry. Well, how do you think I feel? One more thing before we get your picks on the players. Your friend Robbie Andrew, he calls himself a hack. He said, "Well, we hacks, call it." I said, "Where'd you get that name from?" Well, it was my light went out there on the side. If you just plug it, there you go. Thank you. He had said, "Well, we just gave ourselves that name, Rosaforte." And we used to call Rosa Hack and whatever. He was recalling your time in the press box, and the fun you had together with Robbie and the camaraderie, which is part of what makes sports writing, or did at least at one time. So Robbie's one of the nicest people, as you know, you could ever want to be around.
True. And we throw the word. Even Larry Dorman, who's one of the greatest writers of all time, was Dorhack.
Love Dorman.
And I'd compete against him. He definitely helped me raise my level of game. But the thing about golf writers, a lot of them are really good writers too. I never consider myself a great writer, but I was,
great
solid,
reporter,
and
great
I did the
reporter.
story, and it would be reporting, and the writing wasn't bad. It just wasn't as rich as some of the great writers, or funny like Jenkins, or Dave Anderson, very simple, but I'm never going to win a Pulitzer Prize. So or Jaime Diaz. I just see Jaime on Jaime's kind of like that. Jaime Diaz, talking about my colleague now at Golf Digest or at Golf Channel. Excuse me, was for Golf Digest for many years. He's one of the greats, and he would go in that class, but it was a different type of style. It was a different style and more interpretive, and sometimes a little overwritten, and not by Jaime, but in spots. But at the same time, it's that was another thing reason why I gravitated to it, because I learned to be a better writer there, and it carried over in some of the other sports I covered.
Right. All right, I got about 90 seconds. I'd like to spend all night with it because I love talking to you, especially about the old days in the press box. But I want to get to the players. I don't know who this. I don't know if this golf course favors any particular one. I guess if you hit your irons 1,000 yards and straight, like Jason Day can at times, although he didn't have his Bay game, there certain players are going to be obviously favored here in this event. And of course, premium on landing in the right place on this golf course. You cannot be off course here and be all over the place like you can in Augusta in the rough. So given what we have to deal with, I know what Vegas says about who's favored and all that. The usual suspects: Rory McIlroy, Jason Day, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson, and then, of course, a few other cats like Ricky Fowler. What happened to Ricky Fowler? He three-jacked it from about 6 feet or 4 feet, didn't he? It was terrible.
He also made a 58 or some 70-something footer for eagle, too, so it all equals out.
And basically, the golf gods,
And okay, I'm going with Ted Potter, just so it's, this is a Ocala thing.
Ted Potter of Ocala, Florida is going to win it right here. You heard it on the Buddy Martin show. Ted Potter is going to win the Players.
Why not?
Why not?
Mickelson at Pebble.
Yeah.
No, look, it's interesting that one group, it's got Spieth, McIlroy, and Justin Thomas, and none of them have ever won there. Jordan went like 58 holes without a bogey when he first played here, and now he's missed 3 straight cuts. McIlroy last week said, "I used to hate it, now I love it. No, actually, I like it." And actually, in cumulative score, he's got the best in the last 5 years. So,
well, I got one for you.
It's not the type of course where you take out driver in every hole,
or
every hole. It's not a par 3,
exactly.
And so the byproduct of that is that guys test their patience and they're also their decision making.
I got two foreigners here that I like playing well. I like Justin Rose, and he like his game. And Paul Casey's got it going now. He's just about to go on over.
Yeah.
He's finally starting to get his game together. If he's rolling the ball pretty good. This is off, though. Anybody can pick those other guys, like you said. So a couple of names I mentioned there. And the guy, what's the deal with Bryson?
Those are solid picks. Solid picks.
Yeah. What's the deal with Bryson DeChambeau? What's his story?
Well, he's different. He's different.
I like
him. Scientist. I like him too. He's worked out with a guy he's worked out and he's gained, but he's like 210 pounds now. And, he's just like a lot of these guys, they keep getting bigger and so they hit it further. And Woods has adopted him and taken him under his wing and teach him a lot of stuff because he's fascinated by the science of the game. And so, and it doesn't seem to mess up his game or his mind. He's won. He contended last week. He had a top 10 again. He could be the guy he's trending, as they say. Yeah. And, I like him a lot. He's a gentleman too. And he best of all, it's no big deal. I can call him or text him and he'll pick up or he'll call me back and text me back so I can do my story.
There you go. That's what counts right there. Hey, real quick, I got some Bubba Watson fans here. Our buddy Lynn Tyndall up in Brunswick says he likes Bubba here. It's not his kind of golf course at all because he's praised it around a bit. But what do you think about Bubba's chances?
I think Jaime was spot on when he was saying that basically this is just a way for Bubba to take pressure off him, but it really negates his, what he is, and which is the most talented guy out there, one of the most talented guys out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They'd like to take some of the pressure off him sometimes. It's a mind game within the mind game.
Yeah. Hey, you follow the Gators a little, I know, because you're an old Gator yourself. Any thoughts about the coach, about what's happening in Gainesville, about Mullen and the excitement he's been creating?
I know Mullen a little bit, because his wife used to work at Golf Channel.
Right.
And
Megan.
And Megan, yep. And it's a good call. Mm-hmm. He's a good man. I played D1A football college at Rhode Island. Played the Yankee Conference back in the 70s. So, Mullen came in and he gave us, he was like talking to us one night, I think me and Cellini, and he was just acting like a coach. It was great. I mean, I was having flashbacks. Not that I could ever play in the SEC, but a little too slow for that. But but it was cool. And he's a good guy. I wish him well. I think he could be the answer. Should have hired him before this.
I think you're right. Hey, Tim, have a wonderful week in Ponte Vedra. We'll look forward to your stuff as always, and thank you for spending some time with us, and look forward to getting up and back in the old days of the steak night we used to have together back in the day when we'd have a bottle of wine and steak, sit down and talk about life. That was always fun. So
we do that every once in a while. Life's too short. We should do it again, buddy.
We should do it again. Tim, thanks so much, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right, Tom.
Thanks
for the call.
Right.
See you.
All right. One of my favorite dudes right there. He's a guy that what? I hear a noise. What? Hello? I'm doing a show here. What? You get your own walk-up music now? Oh, my word. Dilly Dilly. Oh, look who's here. Oh, my goodness. Look who showed up. Somebody said today he sure makes an entrance. How many you have there? Swamp?
Boy.
Yeah, Enrico said.
Enrico.
Wait, what is this? What is this? Oh, Stump Knockers.
From local.
This is your favorite, isn't it?
Seville.
No?
It's from the Promised Land.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, let's crack it open, then.
I did.
Do a dilly dilly. We'll call Fran's Beard and have a dilly dilly toast.
Well, before we do all that, I gotta break it all up since you decided to start way too early.
Yeah, well, we started a little bit early. We'll stay a little longer if we have to.
What happened with you starting at this new time? You didn't clear this with me.
I didn't. You weren't here, so I didn't have to.
Who remembers this?
No. What is that?
With what?
What is? I can't see it. What is it?
You know who this is? This is. They play this. They played this.
Sounds like Janis Joplin. I don't know who it is.
AC/DC.
Okay.
In fact, they play this pregame when I was on the sidelines, 2009, at University of Florida. You remember?
I would know up in the press box.
Particularly during the LSU game, they played this. They had this going. It was electric.
Okay.
It was electric.
So you get things I don't see down there.
Can you take this graphic off, so I can be seen to the kingdom?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like wearing a crown.
Put it on. Wear it out.
I mean,
so
I feel like
he's here, folks. Have your shot, Francis.
It's the best part. It's finished.
Okay.
You gotta have the comments.
Coville's excited. Coville, I don't have.
Dilly Dilly! Yeah! Coville?
Oh. I don't know.
What?
You got your people here. David Hunter. Comments I...
What?
Just seeing a sports show is all I was doing.
It's Late Night Dilly Dilly, Dad.
Uh-huh.
It's not just a sports show.
Yeah.
Because
so much for the sports
you've
show.
Been thunderstruck. Thunderstruck. Yeah, thunderstruck. Woo! 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 I'm back.
You are.
I'm glad you started late. I needed an entrance.
Well, you got it. And do you mind if I get my papers over here? I don't want to get your way your beer, but I do have a few papers I got to get. I got to tell people about. I got to play this little commercial right now.
Cheers before you do that.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, dilly dilly.
Dilly dilly.
All right.
Dilly dilly.
All right, there you go.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what. Thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best. best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk.
No one ever plans a car accident. Having a plan after you've been in one, however, can make a world of difference. Daniel L. Hightower has been fighting for accident victim justice in Ocala and statewide since 1976. After meeting with Dan and his team, you'll know your case matters, that you matter, and that Dan will fight hard to get you just results. If you've been severely injured through no fault of your own by a careless or reckless driver, you need Daniel L. Hightower.
Off anyways.
It's off. There you go. Now, sorry, we got to unplug this.
See what happens to me? I work all day to get this.
I won't be able to hear Franz, and we got to change the log.
Well, if he'll hurry up, it won't matter. He won't be around, so we're late getting to him.
What do you mean he's not going to be around?
Well, supposed to call him 2 minutes ago. So.
All right. Well, hold on, Franz.
All right, we're coming. Meanwhile, I'll tell you about. Don't forget about World of Beer. Let me just do this little commercial while we're doing this. All right. We'll be there tomorrow and Wednesday night. Don't forget, we're there every Wednesday night. Brady Ackerman. I saw Brady shopping in Publix on Sunday.
Did you?
So
what
actually,
was Brady shopping for?
Just the usual groceries. And I said, well, superstars have to shop too, for themselves every now and then. So there you go. So World of Beer, of course, is our hangout in Gainesville. We love being there. Is a reason they've been named the top bar and pub in Gainesville 2 consecutive years. Located out on Newberry Road, about 3 miles from the interstate, going west out toward the mayor's house of Newberry, Nat Blaylock. And check it out. Come out and see us Wednesday night. We got lots of T-shirts. Brady makes some free T-shirts for you guys. Had the Buddy Martin and Brady Ackerman show on the back of it. We'll give you those. And also, we want to make sure you know that the beer, they have all kinds of beers, obviously, around the world. We haven't talked a lot about those, but we'll get into some of those. Good times, good beer, good talk, good fun. Always special events going on. So come out and see us. The place is voted Gainesville's best bar and pub. Brady Ackerman, Buddy Martin with you every Wednesday afternoon at 6. And the world of beer. It's not just about the beer, but it could be.
It's kind of like the show. It's not just about a sports show. Is the Franz on?
I don't know.
Hello, Franz. Are you there?
Looks like it, doesn't it? I see you. Can you see me?
Well, hold on, Franz. We will in a second.
Well, he's
now
driving.
Hi, Franz.
Hello, Francis.
How are you, sir?
Gentlemen's, and I use that term loosely as I would for my own self.
Well, I appreciate your looseliness and use of the word gentleman to us as you use it for yourself, kind sir. Dilly dilly, friends.
Good evening to you, Brendan.
I'm still coming back from a little bit of Boston vacation on the weekend there, friends. Went up the Charles River, Down in Boston, took my daughter over to Harvard, where the smart kids are.
For a quarter.
For a quarter. And I parked the car. I did. That's pretty good, right?
That's okay.
Brendan.
That's not bad.
Not bad.
How you been, Franz?
Good. Trip down to Tampa and back today, and made it all in one piece, so I'm in good shape.
Can you get our comments on the screen?
Yes.
Friends, we had a lot of buzz tonight about Joe Burrow. I've been working on a story pretty much all day. I say all day. I made about 8 phone calls, and one of our guys, I got to give him credit for getting the ball rolling. Quentin Cruz, remember Quentin? He said he's had 4 different sources have told him, and he's just a guy, he's not a reporter, who said have told him it's looking really good. And I think it's coming, I don't want to say this for sure, but I get a drift. It's coming from one of the players, and I suspect that some of it's coming from Trayvon Grimes, who, of course, was a transfer from Ohio State. And the word out there is, that Burrow is going to transfer, and that's no secret. He's talked about that. His dad made a comment. He graduates already. So they have 2 years of eligibility. He's graduated, I think, already. And after graduation, his dad made a comment about the next challenge. So I don't know if that means the challenge for the job over Haskins, or if that means on Nebraska's in the picture in Florida. I talked to my guy up in Columbus, who's a reporter. I talked to our common friend, I won't mention his name, who's a staff member but not a coach, and they have not heard anything about it there. Doesn't mean it's not so, but there's a lot of buzz out there. There have been some things on Twitter, what have you. I have exhausted every source I can think of. I texted you earlier today, and there seems to be some smoke here, and maybe some fire, but I think it's a long way from being decided. I don't suspect this will be something that will happen the next couple of days, but I'm going to be honest with you, I just don't know. Franz, what do you think?
Well, I'm hearing it both ways. I'm hearing that, yeah, he's definitely going to leave, and that Florida is among the schools, along with Texas, that he really is interested in going to. You got to understand something. Texas head coach Tom Herman is the guy that recruited him to Ohio State. And if Florida is going to have if he decides for sure that he's going to transfer, that's where Florida's competition will be. People are saying, it's going to be Nebraska. His dad played at Nebraska. His uncle played at Nebraska. He had the chance to sign with Nebraska coming out of high school, and he didn't do it. Nebraska, I don't think, is anywhere close to being in the mix. I think that it's either going to be that he's going to stay at Ohio State, or he's going to transfer to either Florida or Texas. I think those are the options. My belief is that he hasn't gotten the full court press yet from Urban Meyer. And, buddy, we've seen Urban Meyer when he gets really serious about either keeping somebody or sending them off and whatever like that. And he can be an extremely persuasive human being. If he elects to stay, it's because Meyer has said that you are going to have a legitimate chance to beat out Dwayne Haskins for the starting job in the fall. And I like Dwayne Haskins a lot. I think Dwayne Haskins is a very, very talented kid. And he's gotten certainly more reps than Joe Burrow. But just the same, Burrow out of high school was an extraordinarily highly recruited player. And he's obviously got a lot of talent, because I guarantee you Florida and Texas would absolutely die to have this guy come in. One of the things, though, buddy, that I've been thinking about is, if he were to transfer in, what does this do? For example, okay, you got Felipe Franks, you've got Kyle Trask in here, you've got Emory Jones in here, you've got Jalen Johnson committed. What would that do?
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's kind of a wrecking ball as far as I'm concerned. And if you don't watch yourself, you better. There's that old expression we heard from coaches: you better dance by the one that brung you sometimes. And I think when you get too many, you just mentioned all those possibilities, and we hadn't even seen as young quarterbacks. This message that I received today from third hand, fourth hand, that they felt like Emory Jones wasn't ready to play right now. Well, that's not earth-shattering news. We know that, but I have every confidence he could be ready to play by the third or fourth or fifth game if he progresses like people think and the reports we're hearing. Let's face it, we don't hear anything, Trance. But I think you got to be real. I think you're at a point here, like you said, where you got to stop and think: Am I doing harm to my team by bringing people in? Because there's no question about it. It can kill the spirit of people who've been competing. They've had a good camp, that they're having a good summer, and now you hear these names. And so, I would suggest that they deal with it one way or the other pretty soon.
Well, here's my comment on, and I agree with what you've just said. What does this do to what Dan Mullen calls the buy-in?
Yeah.
He's been talking about all spring to anybody who will listen about how proud he is of the buy-in of his players, that they have jumped at the opportunity to improve, to embrace what he's bringing in, the strength and conditioning program, the assistant coaches, you name it. They have embraced it. There's been, as he has said, great buy-in. What does this do to the buy-in if all these guys who have bought in suddenly say, well, gee, you know, I could be here and have busted my butt for this new coach, and next thing you know, I'm being shoved out the door or told I'm irrelevant.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I think you got to be careful.
I think if you're going to take a graduate transfer, it needs to be, quite frankly, at a position of true need. Now, granted, Florida needs a quarterback, but you busted your butt recruiting-wise to get Emory Jones, to steal him away from, among other people, Ohio State.
Florida State.
Yeah, Ohio State wanted Emory Jones bad, and Florida out-recruited Ohio State for him.
Yeah.
What does that do to Urban? Urban, as competitive as Urban is on the recruiting trail, does Urban say, yeah okay, look, you didn't tell the truth to Emory and said, I'm going to bring you in to be the guy, and now you're bringing in another guy that's one of my guys. This is the kind of thing, whether we like to admit it or not, coaches do negative recruit. Even coaches who are friends, and certainly Urban and Mullen are friends, but
they're competitors too. He's a competitor for sure.
Naive if you think that Urban wouldn't negative recruit against Mullen, or that Mullen wouldn't negative recruit against Urban.
Let me give you the word off. Sometimes we assume people know things. They don't always. Let me read you the story from Land of 10, just basically how they sum it up. The biggest question surrounding Ohio State's program in the next few weeks involves Joe Burrow. By the way, folks, it's not Burrows, just like it's not Mullins. No S. A redshirt junior quarterback, Burrow, battled with Dwayne Haskins, as you said, throughout the spring for Ohio State's starting job. By the way, my spies in Columbus, and you know what I'm talking about, told me they were pretty even. The spring competition ended in a stalemate, as it says here. It's unclear whether Burrow will return to compete for his job in the fall. Burrow could play elsewhere right away in 2018. And that's a fact that some people don't understand. As a graduate transfer since he graduated over the weekend. And on Monday, there was a new possible landing spot to Burrow. Florida could be a transfer destination, according to Bill Green of 247 Sports. I guess they're still around. According to Green, Burrow headed to Florida would make sense for both sides. The Florida quarterback situation is not good, Green said. Hello. Thank you for that assessment. They don't feel Emory Jones is ready to play right now. Well, who's some guy from somebody else telling us he's not ready to play? We don't know that yet. We got to wait and find out. So that's the deal. That's what it comes from Land of 10. Our guy, Quentin Cruz, I want to give him full credit because he worked the story, says, I'm hearing Myers doing all he can to keep Burrow from transferring. Now Quentin is not a reporter, okay? He just knows people, these friends, and he's called them. He says he knows there's a great possibility he'll go to Florida. He hasn't signed off on the transfer. Burrow wants to be a starter. He has 2 years left. Mullen and Meyer offenses are similar because Grimes, Meyer truly believes he will go to Florida, and that the 2 quarterback Mullen has taken, I don't understand that. I don't see how Meyer would think that. I don't quite get that. Anyway, that's what he's reporting. So there's a lot of moving parts there. We'll see. Be careful what you wish for, right, friends? Be careful what you wish for.
Exactly. And I'm going to say once again what I said at the outset. Urban Meyer hasn't put the full court press on this kid yet.
Yeah.
And for Joe Burrow to get the okay to transfer, and they still haven't changed the graduate transfer rule. It's been proposed that you could transfer anywhere and you could not, and no one could stop you, which I'm for. If you graduated, you are owed that as far as I'm concerned. But here's the thing. The rule hasn't changed yet, which means that Urban Meyer has to sign off on the transfer. And so that means that Joe Burrow is going to have to go to Urban Meyer's office sit down with him, and at that point in time, Urban Meyer will put on the charm, put on whatever he's got to do if he really wants Burrow to stay. And that's, to me, that's the biggest wild card of all. How bad does Urban Meyer want Joe Burrow to stay?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I'll see how it all shakes down. But, this whole cat and mouse game, I was talking to David Moulton. Look what's happened in Alabama. It's the same situation, virtually the same. You got Jalen Hurts' father saying it's going to be the biggest free agency in the history of college football if he decides to leave Alabama. That opened the floodgates. Now I see Alabama sending Jalen Hurts off to a quote-unquote leadership seminar in Tampa with 14 other people. I don't know what's happening there. Nick Saban's no dummy. He knows you need two quarterbacks to play in the SEC because we've seen what can happen. And so you're going to have to keep that in mind. How do you keep two talented quarterbacks happy? That's the big balancing act. That's the question. I'm sure that's what Urban Meyer is trying to do now. But one of these days, a guy's going to wake up and say, I'm not playing. I want to go play somewhere, and he's gone.
So if you had to pick two right now, Franz, the two people, if you were going to run a two-quarterback system, where would you go? Gun to your head, had to make a decision.
Well,
why, by the way?
Well, here's the thing is, if I were going to run a two-quarterback system, I'd stick with the guys you got. I would only the only way I would ever bring in a graduate transfer quarterback is to know he's going to start. Unless it's, for example, you're bringing in a guy from, say, Division I AA or Division II, a guy that, you use him in a pinch, but basically what he's here to do is to get a graduate degree at a big famous school, but secondly, he's here to maybe catch on and catch the attention of a coaching staff, etc., like that, for perhaps a graduate assistantship in and become a coach. I don't see any problem with that. Buddy, if you remember, Florida brought in a guy named Brian Wagner back to be Tim Tebow's backup. They had John Brantley and they had Cam Newton, but they brought in Brian Wagner in 2007 for one basic reason. He was a JUCO, and they thought, okay, if we need a backup who's actually been in games before, this will be the guy. Now, obviously, Cam Newton came along and played well enough that he became the backup quarterback. But Brian Wagner used the year here, learned a lot, became a better quarterback, and ended up transferring, I think, to a Division I AA school and had a pretty good last 2 years of his career. Mm-hmm. So you pick up a guy like that, it's not a big deal. Okay, nobody's going to be threatened by a Division I AA quarterback or a Division II guy. But you bring in a guy from Ohio State, and there are ripples throughout this program. And you got to worry about, okay, did I see enough out of Felipe Franks in the spring that I think he's salvageable and could actually become a really good quarterback? Mm-hmm. I bring in Joe Burrow, I can kiss him goodbye.
Yeah, let's filter through some of these comments. By the way, a colleague of ours this morning was on the morning show with me, Mike Bianchi, and he ended the program by saying, I'm going to pull a Steve Spurrier. I said, what do you mean? I'm going to make a bold prediction like he did when he said his quarterback was going to be the guy who was going to be the SEC's top passer, and his starting quarterback in 1990 was going to be, guess who? The guy who was the SEC Player of the Year. Exactly. And he said, I'm going to go on the record now saying the SEC quarterback of the year will be Felipe Franks.
Of course.
That's what he said. No,
but that's a Bianchi kind of comment.
No, but right, it's fair enough. I mean,
it's the kind of thing Bianchi would say.
No, I mean, I could make a case for probably any of the three. I can make a case for Kyle Trask right now, who's got a lot of tills. I could make a case for Emory Jones. I could make a case probably, except for the fact that you're kind of betraying your team a little bit this late date when you haven't been working so hard. You bring a guy in from Ohio State. Let's see what some of the other people said.
All right.
There's a couple of comments. John Kerr had a comment up a while ago. Are we thinking long term? Are we thinking, one and done? He said Jones and Jones are the future. Hard to argue that in a way, right?
That's John Enrico. And then John T. Kerr.
No, that was John T. Kerr said that.
Yeah, Frank and Jones. And then John T. Kerr also said, are we building a team for a long run?
That's what I just said.
Okay, Jones and Jones in the future.
Yeah. And then Covell says, I would take our lumps on this year and sit EJ for further development in the future. That also could work as well. Let's see what some of the comments are here. Let's see. Richie Robinson out there in the oil rig. How are you, oil rigger? Says Trask and Emory Jones. Ken Sagini says 2 and done. By then, the other guys will be redshirt sophomores and freshmen ready to run. Remember, though, you got to keep them happy, Ken. You got to keep them happy, and they're not going to sit. That's the problem they got right now at Ohio State. The reason they got a guy who may transfer is he hasn't played for 2 years practically. Yeah. He was the player of the year in Ohio, by the way.
David Sodercrest asking, do you think the Burrow statements are just Mullen not giving too much info?
I don't know who's giving it. I don't know whether I don't really know. I don't see Mullen as the orchestrator of this. I see it as players talking. I think it's a situation where you've got obviously Trayvon Grimes, who's a heck of a receiver, had played ball at Ohio State with this guy. He knows what he can do. Burrow, he sees an opportunity to bring a player. Certainly, Mullen's not going to turn down a chance to get a player.
Right.
If he, I don't think he's out there doing it. Jennifer says Mullen's a quarterback whisperer. He can get Frank's where he needs to be. Not Frank's fault. He had a crappy coach. I agree with Jennifer on that. And then Soderquist, I honestly think Emory Jones eventually takes the job this year. So there you have it. A cacophony of opinions all over the board. All we need now is Bubba to call in and say, it's Kyle Trask. So we have all these opinions. We have a horse race, and now we have a new horse, a fresh horse in the race, France.
Well, I'll throw one thought at you, and that is in 2012, a redshirt freshman at Mississippi State named Dakota Prescott threw 29 passes and as Tyler Russell's backup. When Tyler Russell was a senior, he got hurt in August, and Dakota Prescott had to, no question about it, there was no chance for anybody else. He had to play. So, but going into that season, Tyler Russell, who had thrown 24 touchdown passes the year before, was going to be the guy. But he only got to play in 7 ball games that year. He got hurt, and that was it for him. And the rest is history. Yeah. Dakota Prescott, better known as Dak, took over.
Yeah, you're going to try to throw us off with that Dakota. That Dakota stuff, you were trying to throw us off. I got that right away. We caught you off the bat. We see what you're doing there. No, you didn't get us.
Guess what?
Sorry.
If you ask Megan Mullen what she calls him, that's what she calls him. Okay. Calls him by his name.
Right. We'll ask her because she's going to speak to the Ocala Quarterback Club this year. So, look, it's fun to talk about the quarterbacks without question. Listen, it's been a while.
I feel like Trask Emory Jones.
You do?
Situation.
Trask Emory Jones? You're eliminating Felipe completely?
Yeah, I think he'll eliminate himself.
I'm not so sure. Here's the question, though, and Richie brings it up. If you get right down to it, Mullen's dog, which, by the way, Mullen talked about him at the Chick-fil-A, the dog is named, inspired by Tim Tebow. His name is Heisman. And I think he has better sense to say than to say, my dog Heisman can play quarterback. Which I think this might have been the worst quote by any coach in the history of Florida football. When I was there that day, and I think you might have been too, when he said my dog Clarabelle could play quarterback.
And then he shouldn't have gone shark fishing.
No, that didn't happen. That was not true. No. Don't start rumors like that. So, anyway.
Bad shark fishing idea.
No.
Shouldn't have gone shark fishing.
Yeah, Scott Jordan says you need another beer. But the thing.
Okay, good. I have one.
Yeah.
And I am out. Thanks for telling me.
What I wanted to say was that now suddenly, you all right?
Yeah.
We have an embarrassment of riches. Went from 0 quarterbacks. Think back to the Will Greer year, Will. France, to recap what happened that year. The guy, by the way, who's picked as Sporting News picks as the 5th best quarterback in the country at West Virginia. What happened that year? The last time we had a flash of success at quarterback.
Obviously, after he had started a few ball games and looked like he was going to be a true world beater.
5-0, right?
Yes, indeed. Literally flinging the ball all over the place. He ends up with problems out the wazoo and gets suspended and ends up transferring out. You'd never
and
know.
Who ended up playing quarterback?
Oh, gosh.
How soon we forget?
The midget.
Yeah, probably not. Probably one of the worst quarterbacks we've had at Florida. And he did the best he could. He just couldn't throw.
Well, you know what? I feel really bad. I feel really bad for Treon. Although I will say this. He's going to be a second-year starter at Tennessee State this year. I believe this will be his second. Will this be his second? Yeah, this will be his second. He'll be a second-year starter at Tennessee State this year. And, who knows? He may end up turning out to be, really good at that level. But certainly someone who wasn't capable of quarterbacking an SEC team. And this is why you've got to bring in a quarterback every single year. I mean, Treon Harris is the perfect example of why you have to bring one in every single year. Because you don't know who's going to transfer. You don't know who's going to be, a total bust. Whatever.
Yeah, you don't know who's going to suck. I mean, we're sitting here talking about right now, we have 3 quarterbacks. We really don't know what we have. We could have 3 busts. Again, I'm not trying to put the hex out there, but I'm just saying we have 3 unproven quarterbacks that look pretty good, and we hope to be good. But
we had Jacoby Brissett and Jeff Driscoll here, and
all played in the NFL.
One of them starts in the NFL, and the other one, they're thinking of ways to get Andy Dalton out of there so they can let Jeff Driscoll be the starting quarterback at Cincinnati. They think that Jeff Driscoll is the real deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. Enough so that they let A.J. McCarron go to Buffalo.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's kind of saying something for him. So, nonetheless, friends,
I'm a little spoiled. I've seen quarterbacks here over the years. I've seen some really good quarterbacks. And when I'm talking about Spurrier, I'm talking about the great John Reeves. He was great, as you know. We can go through the litany of all the quarterbacks that we've seen. Naturally, Tebow, certainly
Wayne
Danny
Peace
Werfel.
Oh, my gosh.
Who?
Wayne Peace and Bob Hugo.
Yeah, and we don't even get mentioned. And now, what always used to gall me was here was a school with quarterback U, with 3 Heisman Trophy statues of quarterbacks out front, and for 10 years I couldn't find a damn quarterback. What's wrong with that picture?
Well, like I said, we had two NFL quarterbacks here, and what did we do? First off, we ran them off, but secondly, we convinced both of them that they were incompatible with what they were trying to do offensively.
So it's just not a fit for the whole. I mean, you think France, that was it? That was the breakdown. That was just the system versus the style of quarterback that was here. I mean, clearly that
combination of the two things,
and nobody would compromise. Right? I mean, there was no compromise with the program versus the quarterback.
Which is Florida? It's full of skill position players.
Right.
My gosh, they got speed, they got power, they got quarterbacks with great arms. They throw the ball because of the weather.
But they should have. I mean, not for a decade. I mean, it should be like it's a reload situation.
Nobody wanted to play here.
We let Lamar Jackson go to Louisville.
Yeah.
We let Teddy Bridgewater go to Louisville. I mean, You're talking
Recruiting
about
then.
Lamar Jackson won a Heisman, and if he'd had any kind of support, would have won a second one this past year. I mean, a truly great college quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater, my goodness. Teddy Bridgewater was a college talent like few others. And these are guys that, from what I understand with Teddy Bridgewater, Florida was trying to recruit him as a defensive back until the last second when it appeared that, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to get anybody who's decent. And then that's when they tried to recruit him.
All right. I got to step in here. He's relatively new, and he has some good comments. I got to call Scott Jordan out, okay? He says, forget the quarterback. It starts with the offensive line. That's the problem, is to fool yourself. I'm sorry, it does not start with the offensive line. The offensive line is certainly important, but it starts with the trigger. Why is every franchise looking for a quarterback in the NFL? It starts with the quarterback. You have to have the guy. You can actually get good offensive linemen, not great, and they're trained as a unit. They're like a basketball team. They all got to play together. That's the key. So I can't go into that deal. People start getting carried away with comments like that. You can't forget the quarterback, Scott. It may start with the running game, and the running back is important. And I made a comment this morning, that I see Mullen establishing that running game strong. I remember the game out in Stark Vegas that we went out and covered. And I remember how he brutalized Urban's team, ran over them, put the bigs in there on the goal line and blew them on, and a power offense. What was Tebow? He was a tailback in a power offense. The scrum at Florida State that he ran, where he carried 8 Seminoles with him, it was power. Now, do I think Mullen's going to just coach running? No, I don't. Mullen's going he's going to have big bodies. He's going to have good goal lines. Hevessy's going to have big guys. Hevesy. And I think, but the quarterback has got to be the guy, the focal point at Florida, where we want points and we want plays and we want entertainment. We got to have the quarterback here.
Well, tell me a team that's won the national championship with a mediocre quarterback. Please tell me. And you can't, the closest thing anybody would come to a national championship with a mediocre quarterback would be Matt Flynn at LSU in 2007. And there are a lot of people who say that, well, Matt Flynn, couldn't beat out the guy the year before, Jamarcus Russell. Well, that may be true, but Matt Flynn, certainly, I remember that in 2007. Matt Flynn, when Florida went out there, Matt Flynn played a brilliant ball game, was a very good college quarterback, just happened to be at LSU when they were stacked up with quarterbacks.
I'm sorry, Fran. I saw great quarterbacks like, let's just say Tim Tebow from the sidelines take, players, young Pouncey twins, and a couple of, guys and make them play better than they were supposed to be playing in that particular moment. I got to say that a really great quarterback that we've known is not just a leader, but is someone that lifts you up and wants you to, makes you want to play better. And
that is a leader. That is a leader.
And I think that's the difference. One person, one guy out of 11 can make a huge difference there, and I think that relies, on the quarterback.
That guy in the huddle, when everybody looks at his eyes and they see a will to win like nothing they've ever seen. Why do you think that, we could go back to something you were just talking about. Why do you think the Pouncey twins were just such devastating blockers? Well, they realized that in Tebow, they had that guy, and if they'd hold that block an extra millisecond longer, he would get the yards they needed to move the chains or get the touchdown, whatever like that. And that's what the quarterback's got to do. That quarterback has got to be that indomitable leader, the guy that everybody looks to and knows, hey, sometimes we make a joke back when Tebow played and said, well, let Tim do it. Okay. You do let Tim do it because Tim would do it.
Yeah. especially in college, especially with this age group.
By the way, I just got to tell you, it just flashed through my mind. Tonight I went out for about a 7-mile walk after I got back from Tampa, and I was wearing a University of Arkansas T-shirt that we bought 10 years ago.
Oh my God, I remember.
One week after the Tebow speech.
Yeah,
you remember? Florida lost to Ole Miss. Tim made the speech afterward, and we flew into Tulsa the next week, drove over from Tulsa into Arkansas, and went to a supermarket and got some supplies, and we bought T-shirts.
I still have my sweatshirt, because it was raining.
It was raining and everything, but I still have my Arkansas T-shirt, and that's going back to something you just were talking about. That is a ball game.
Yeah.
That Tim Tebow, the week after Tim Tebow came up short, Tim Tebow absolutely destroyed Arkansas because there were a lot of people who were saying Arkansas is going to spring the upset on Florida. Florida is in deepest and darkest trouble. And guess what? Tim Tebow just absolutely destroyed him that ball game. Great ball game.
It was a great ball game.
I think you have to remember what Mullen said, and a lot of our people are checking in with some really good comments tonight. I can't read them all.
I've got to pull out my promise. I have a personal promise. I was in the room. Well, you were in the room.
Friends and I were sitting right next to each other.
So I was behind you.
This far away.
Yeah. So I was back on Tripod Bro there at the Tripod Forest. We came in there, and I was standing on the aisle, right on the aisle where he walked in and out. No. And I have of the video that I shot of it somewhere. You and Franz were sitting next to each other.
Yeah, and Franz and I were sitting right next to each other, and literally 5 feet from Tebow in the front row.
Yeah.
And when it was over, Franz, I turned to you and said, "I've never seen anything like that in my life." And you said, "Me neither." Remember that?
Yes, I do.
And
I will also remember the next comment you made. You said, "I have a feeling we're going to remember this moment a long time."
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I guess it's chiseling the wall.
When he walked out of the room, and he walked right past me, and at the end, he was in in that emotional tear state, like he was gonna. But he didn't. He wasn't like he was about to lose it, and the room was just.
He'd already lost it.
I remember it was silent.
He'd already lost it.
It was silent. I mean, everyone didn't know what the hell just happened.
Yeah.
A bomb went off in there. It was that was. To be in the room in that moment. I was thinking about the other day. I was like, not only I don't know, you were in the room. Franz was in the room.
Yeah.
I tried to think, and Tim Casey was there. So who else was Gator Country was there with us?
It was the Gipper speech. It was our Gipper speech.
Yeah, right.
And one day there'll be a movie about it, but. What happened, just for history's sake, prior to that, I think was significant, and doesn't get talked about enough. I know people love to bash Urban, and they think it's funny to, whatever, and they think he's insensitive and he's cold-hearted and all that sort of stuff, fakes, whatever you think. But I thought some of the most brilliant coaching I'd ever heard of is when they came off the field that day, Tebow was an emotional wreck.
Yeah.
He went. I wasn't in the locker room, but this is what Urban told me had happened. Where I wrote the book. Tebow went to his locker and completely lost it. And he was just bawling his eyes out. He couldn't stop crying. And Urban walked up to the locker and saw him. And what does a coach do in that situation? He did not pat him on the back and say, "It's okay, Tim." Don't. He actually sat down with his back to Tim, who was sitting on the bench, leaned up against him, and just sat there and said nothing and let him cry. I thought that was absolutely brilliant, in my opinion. And sometimes it's what you don't say. And who knows how that impacted Tebow. But Tebow had that steel resolve in his eyes that day. And
what was the next game?
Arkansas.
Yeah. And what was the game after that?
38-7, and then they beat LSU 51-21.
God, at LSU, right?
Question.
No, at home.
That game was in Gainesville.
It was in Gainesville, and that's where Thunderstruck was played on the field.
That's the game where Brandon Spikes intercepted 2 passes and ran them both back for touchdowns. And on the second one, he punted the ball into the end zone.
That's when they were playing that song, Thunderstruck, I played when I walked in here on the field without the kickoff. And I remember looking up around, and I thought, oh, my God, the swamp is electric tonight. Yeah. Sitting on the field like that perspective, I mean, it's not even like for even a pro field, there's not as many people at a pro game. You know, to see all that, especially LSU, that's like 92,000.
Yeah. And so I ask you, so
I mean,
okay,
that is crazy.
So okay, Will Muschamp, okay, Jim McElwain, this is what we know. This is how we're invested. This is where we've been. We have a right to expect more out of you as coaches. We're with the program and really close to it and part of it. And what I resent about that is those guys just never really got it. I don't care what you say. They never. And yet Meyer, who brought championship trophies, is still one of the most hated guys in Florida history, although I see some love for him tonight on there. Scott George said, Meyer is awesome. He's real. And Ken Segini said, I sure do like those trophies Urban brought. Yeah, I'd say so. But and Franz, you were close to the team, and you know what it was like. You know what they thought of Meyer, what Meyer thought of them. That was a great time in Florida football history. I love Spurrier. I love the era. I thought it was wonderful, and it'll always be the first one. But for people to disrespect that program and not pay attention to what was accomplished there really makes my blood boil.
Well, what makes my blood boil is the fact that nobody wants to give Urban credit for being sick, and he was. And you and I both know what he has gone through and has to continue going through to stay healthy. And it's not easy. And most of us would quit before we go through the ordeal he has to go through to stay healthy for one more year. And he's got to do it every single year. And, you know, I hear people who say, well, he faked it. You know what I say? You know, you are so clueless. You don't even deserve the air you're breathing. I'm sorry, but that's just a fact. No. And you know, 8-5. You know, Florida went 8-5 in 2000 in 2010. And you know, people say, well, see, Meyer had lost it. He'd lost his team. He'd lost this. He'd lost that. You know, he had replaced essentially he had basically replaced an entire coaching staff. And yet, in spite of that, in spite of a brand new quarterback replacing a legend, etc., like that, you look at this. They lost by 3 to Mississippi State. They lost by 4 to LSU. That team was almost 10-3, and if they win those two ball games, who knows what happens in those last couple losses? Do they lose by 24 to Florida State? Do they get blown out by South Carolina? I don't think so. You know, if he wins 10 ball games that year, what are people saying? People say, well, he went 8-5 this last year. He lost it. Well, the difference between 8-5 and 10-3 was 7 points.
Yeah, well, okay. People say, what do you expect about Florida? We know the standard. We've seen it. We know what it is. We have a right to expect it. And I feel good about the guys there right now, as we all do. I hope our expectations aren't too high, because we're talking about two of the greatest football coaches in history of the game in Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier. Those kind of guys don't fall off the back of grapefruit trucks, you know? And so we got our I think Mullen's going to be extraordinary. Could be a great coach, maybe. But he's unproven at the highest level. Certainly he's the next tier down. He's not one of the top echelons, but he could be. And he's young, and he's got a good offensive mind. He's a smart guy. He's a really good play caller. We're going to find out how good a recruiter he really is at a place like Florida, and he's got a pretty good staff. So I'm anxious to see these wide receivers with Billy Gonzalez as a wide receiver coach, and we'll see what the defense looks like. But I think I think that we have a reason to be optimistic,
yeah,
and to be after what we've been through the last few years here, and to have this many quarterbacks. That's a real joy.
Look, I was just in Boston, and they were the Bostonians were really bitching about the really cold winter that they had this year in March. And they were discussing how good it felt to have that warm weather again. I think that's what this is kind of going to feel like. It's like the Gator Nation has gone through several really cold, like an ice age almost, of no offense, of no coaching, of no leadership, of just take your pick. And I think everyone's hopeful that this is going to be the difference. I mean, I don't want to discuss the other scenario currently because I'm more about wanting to support the new regime, the new coaching staff, and what we're up against. And I think in college football particularly, your fan base has got to support you in the beginning. It helps recruiting. It helps drive everything. That's what I'm kind of about.
We're going to see, in fact,
let me take a real quick comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you're talking about, but Mullen isn't proven at the highest levels yet. Well, that Spurrier guy came along, and he had been the football coach at Duke, D-O-O-K University, and people said, yeah, but he's never coached in the Southeastern Conference. He doesn't know what he's in.
Yeah.
Right. Along comes that Urban guy, okay? He comes along, and Paul Feinbaum says, yeah, that worked at Utah, but if you think for 1 second that trickery and that spread it is, see,
a funky offense. Yeah.
You be nuts. Well, good luck on my check.
We lose France?
I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, so, all right, Francis, good job tonight. Appreciate it very much.
Great job tonight, Franz.
We're going to...
you always bring your A game when I'm on, Franz, and I appreciate that stuff. I would have said a bad word, but
Brendan, you're like Tebow. You bring out the best of us.
I'm not the leader. I'm just a lover, Franz.
Yeah. It's good to have him back, I know that. And a good response from the Gator Nation team tonight. Boy, you guys were great tonight.
Yeah.
Great questions, great comments. I love it. When the Crown Prince gets settled in, he's going to work out something to get the hotline going here. We haven't figured that out yet, but we're working on it. Takes a little time. We're changing the hours.
Say goodnight to Franz. We look like we're losing this connection.
All right, Francis. Good night, buddy.
Good night,
Thanks very
Franz.
much. Appreciate
you very
it.
much. Thanks for bringing your A game as usual.
Appreciate it.
Franz Beard, everybody.
All right, so I started at 8:30 tonight, so I'm on overtime.
Yeah, I don't know. You never explained to me why.
Well, because I want to get in everybody. I had a lot of guests to get in tonight.
Well, who?
Well, I want to get in.
We don't have to be so close.
Yeah, David Bolton. Take Franz Beard's name down. It's not my name.
I
wanted to say, we'll work on that to the Gator Nation Kingdom. We'll take a minute or two and share with you folks a lot of things we're going to. What are the new hours? Well, we figured it out, Scott. We want to try to do mornings, 10:30 till 11:30 or so. And we did 2 shows today. That's a little tough. There'll be a couple of days I got to do 2 shows. Got to do a show called Our Town. So right now, according to the producer, I think we're going to continue to try to do either 1 or 2 shows Monday. The morning show we might do away with on Mondays and just do the late night Dilly Dilly on Mondays. The Tuesday morning show, right?
You know this is just a summer schedule.
Yeah, the morning. Well, we'll see how it goes.
Can I put up the cow?
Sure. And just cover me right up. That's fine.
Yeah, let's do a show like this.
Okay, good. That's a good picture of me. I'm answering a question and trying to tell the folks the hours as best we can because we haven't been very transparent.
Have some dilly dilly.
The first one to complain about the schedule will be him. And so tomorrow morning at 11:30 or 10:30, we're going to try to go again. We got guest schedule. Here's a little surprise for you. You didn't know this. You didn't read your mail today.
What?
Next Tuesday morning.
I got paid?
No, you don't get paid yet. Next Tuesday morning, we're going to do a little virtual tour of James Bates' studio.
What?
By Skype. He's going to take us on a tour. Batesy, how about that?
He's not sane.
Of course he's not sane.
No, he's one of, great. You know what? I did some
great dude.
TV truck work with him in Colorado.
Yeah.
And he was doing Mountain West, and he's awesome.
Yeah, he'd be great.
He's an awesome dude.
And listen,
awesome
I got
dude.
word today
awesome person.
that we are going to get Dan Mullen.
What?
Yes.
On this show?
On this show.
Can I be on? Or you're going to let me? You won't probably let me in the room.
I don't think he'd appreciate your humor.
I'm probably not allowed to talk.
Probably not.
I can't ask a question?
It depends on your behavior.
Okay, can I ask the question that Gator Nation Kingdom wants to ask?
Well, you can tell us what they're asking. Mainly, I want to get him on.
I don't know if my name on here.
I don't know if they're. Well, put it up there. You took it over. What can I say? You came in here.
Read your thing. Oh, there's Brendan Martin.
Jeez. You put your name up at the end.
This crappy font. Great, thanks. That's
you don't come in here and start ripping on my show.
Here you go.
Oh, jeez.
Here we go.
I give up.
That's better.
Anyway, we'll let you know what it is. That's good.
Thanks,
we're going to change, to answer your question, 3 things. I'm going to go to bed.
3 things.
Because I didn't get a vacation.
3 things. By the way, I was working all last week.
Okay. You said you're on vacation. You just
the
said
weekend.
Well, I didn't. Okay. Well, anyway, so we'll get to morning show tomorrow, World of Beer on Wednesday night, morning show Thursday. I won't even put our town in there yet. And we're going to do a Friday morning show. No late night dilly dilly on Friday. Only Monday. We're going to try that for the summer. We're planning to try to go to on the 15th to Atlanta for media dates if we can. Other things to be announced along the way. We're going to.
Been busy again without me.
I don't know.
You and Baba.
I can't speak for you.
Your best buddy.
And we will do those shows, and we're going to do the hotline, and I'm going to have a drawing. These shoes right here will be among the things.
I'll give mine away.
Well, these have never been worn.
Well, I wore mine like half a day. I didn't even wear mine.
But here's what I'm going to do. If you put that down, I can see. I'm going to have several prize packages. I'm thinking about this now. So the elite, I want to put up, if you stop fooling with that, the elite names I'd like to put up because we're going to have a drawing once a month for them.
Okay.
And among those, we're going to give away packages. Like we might give away, we'll probably give away one package of, let's say, the shoes and a couple of books. We'll give away some T-shirts and maybe some of the great CD Farms beef, whatever. And whatever goodies we find. We might have a ball, football or something. And we'll have a drawing among the elite names, and they'll get that prize. And, how you like this idea? We're going to have the, whatever we call this, the Dilly of the month. The best contributor, poster, comments, call in, whatever, of the month, we'll give them a special award for their participation and contributing to the show. Because that, in the end, is what makes the show your contribution. I want to thank our guests tonight. Of course, our sponsors, our guests were.
Look, I got your graphics up.
Thank you.
Whew.
Yeah, I know.
Workout.
There's our crew. There's the people that paid the. Where are you putting that?
They can see it fine.
Oh boy,
they can't. Do you need to read it?
No.
Here, go ahead. There you go. It's right there.
Yeah.
There you go. It's right there. Read it up.
There it is.
I got it for you.
Roger Burns says, you got the B-Boys coming. Bates, the coach, waiting for the buddy, Brendan, Brady, and Bradshaw show, he says.
Wow. That would be something, right?
Yeah. How are things in China, Roger? Anyway, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to also, I don't know what we're going to do. That's it.
Did you give up?
Well, I've been doing this now. I'm 2.5 hours on the air today. I'm a little
It's your
touchy.
fault. You started early, not me.
Well, got things to do. I want to talk to people. Thank you, folks, for doing a great job. Thank you for the comments on the show. Thank you for helping make it such a good show.
Wait.
Nice crowd tonight. Good people. Say goodnight to each other. We're going to say night.
Be nice to each other.
Say goodnight to each other.
In the late night dilly dilly, we want to say, be kind to each other. Come on, bud.
Was this like Mr. Rogers'
Can
neighborhood?
you cheers me?
Yeah.
You're crabby just because you had a long day. Didn't get into 1 in the morning.
Distracted.
By
Cheers.
what?
Dilly dilly.
To the elite. I got them up.
I love you. Good night.
I love you. Good night. And be kind to each other. Come on. Be good to each other.
I don't know.
And gosh darn it, people like me.